apartments were set ablaze. Abu Rami's home library, evidently deemed worthless by the looters, was now a pile of ash. I followed Abu Rami to the balcony, where a few incinerated potted plants stood in the corner. We looked out onto an incredible scene. Every building in the district had been subjected to the same systematic pillaging and arson. The entire street and neighborhood was awash in mounds of debris mixed in with the remains of people's lives: gutted teddy bears, crushed toys, abandoned school notebooks and photo albums, empty and battered suitcases, broken furniture. It was as if a hurricane had swept through central Homs, just a month after it reverted to Bashar al-Assad's control, following a vicious 3-year siege and bombing campaign intended to strangle communities that rebelled against him. Bashar made people choose between starving to death and surrendering to him, and when they had done one or the other, or fled the country altogether, he declared victory. "Long live Assad Syria! Assad, or we burn the country," was sprayed in big, bold black letters on Abu Rami's building. By the time this book comes out, the Assad family will have been in power for nearly half a century, outlasting 8 U.S. presidents, starting with Richard Nixon. While the Islamic State's black-clad, barbarian-like terrorists horrified people everywhere and dictated much of Western policy in Syria, the truth is that Bashar, a mild-mannered former eye doctor trained in the West and married to a glamorous British-born former investment banker, was the one chiefly responsible for the mayhem, destruction, and intense human suffering that consumed Syria and reverberated across the Middle East and world between 2011 and 2018. Bashar commanded and directed the army officers and soldiers, the mukhabarat bosses and agents, and the legions of militiamen doing most of the killing. And he was empowered by the extraordinary support he received from his allies and backers: Iran, the Lebanese militia, Hezbollah, and then, crucially, the Russian military. When it comes to Syria, one often hears these arguments. Everyone has blood on their hands. Bashar may be bad, but ISIS is worse. There are no good guys in Syria. Or, more analytically, this is a civil war that turned into a complex, multi-layered conflict and drew in regional and world powers. There are elements of truth in all these assertions, but there's one truth that can never be obscured. Bashar and his family, motivated by their quest to cling to power at any cost, were directly responsible for decisions and actions that turned the peaceful protests in the spring of 2011 into a devastating years-long war and facilitated the rise and spread of ISIS, a truth buttressed by new evidence and details revealed in this book. For the first time, I lay bare what went on in Bashar's innermost circle during the fateful period between March 18, 2011, when the first Syrian protesters were shot dead, and August 18, 2011, when President Obama said that Bashar must step down. I examine Bashar's decision to release Islamist militants from prison a few months into the popular uprising and deliberately abandon key outposts and regions on the Iraq-Syria border in early 2013 at the precise moment ISIS was emerging. Through my hard-won access to regime insiders, I investigate the regime's rationale for using chemical weapons. In the spring of 2016, I was in Geneva covering the UN-mediated peace talks between the Syrian regime and opposition, talks that Bashar skillfully turned into a charade and time-wasting exercise under the auspices of the Americans and Russians, when the UN envoy to Syria at the time, Staffan de Mistura, announced that the Syrian death toll had reached 400,000. The death meter has not stopped. Following de Mistura's report, tens of thousands more would suffocate to death, be incinerated, or get slashed to pieces from the airstrikes, incendiary rockets, ballistic missiles, cluster bombs, barrel bombs, chlorine bombs, and chemical weapons launched by either the Syrian regime or the Russian military.